The following is a tiny highlight of a much larger conversation with much bigger and more powerful people involved. I only seek to present information. You draw your own conclusions.
When you start opening up the door to say anyone can be trans, that says to me, wait a minute, there's some kind of thing going on here. There's some form. Do I sound conspiracy? Okay, I might be. But that being said, there has to be something bigger. Why do you want all these young people to be trans? And why are we putting this in a space where it's like anyone can just self-ID as trans?
If the agenda is depopulation, everything that follows makes more sense.
In this year's annual letter, Melinda and I take the toughest questions we get asked and give our answers. One that's come up for a long time is, as we make the world healthier, is the population going to get so big that feeding everybody and maintaining the environment is going to be impossible?
It's like anyone can just self-ID as trans, and then you don't look like a female or you don't look like a male and you have no desire to want to be like that. Yeah, I have a desire to walk the world as a man.
Story you're about to hear, it is the ultimate in that you can't make somebody be something they're not. It is known in the medical community as the John Joan case. It is the story of a baby boy who was surgically changed into a girl after there was a botched circumcision. According to the doctors, nothing could be done for this infant. After several agonizing months, the Reimers learned there might be a revolutionary solution. They agreed to a radical treatment known as sexual reassignment at Johns Hopkins Hospital. Called a medical triumph, but in truth, the case was a failure, devastating the lives of just about everybody involved. This is David, who has remained anonymous until now, only known in the medical journals as John Joan.
Meet John Money. Dr. Money was a pioneer in gender theory. He introduced concepts such as gender identity and gender role. He differentiated gender from sex, thinking that the former is a social construct of sorts. During the 60s, one Reimer family got twin boys, Bruce and Brian. Bruce's penis was ruined in a botched circumcision. The concerned parents brought their boy to Dr. Money, who saw this as an opportunity to prove that his theory about gender is taught. He advised the Reiners to remove Bruce's testicles and raise him as a girl, Brenda, expecting that he'll become a legitimate girl. However, Brenda didn't feel like a girl and soon fell into deep depression. What's worse, Money forced the twins to perform sexual acts and stripped for genital inspections and took photos of them.
While Brenda found Dr. Money's approach uncomfortable, his supporters argue that focusing on the gender's physical differences was a scientifically correct procedure at the time.
Well, I'll help you. You have a look down here, between the legs, right? How is a girl and how is a boy down there? What is the difference?
I don't know.
The type of questions that we were asked were sexual in nature. It is very explicit with the sexual parts. I thought he was perverted. I thought he was a sick man. My parents didn't know a lot that was going on. And if they would have known, it never would have happened.
When straight men have sex with men, they're still straight. It doesn't erase heterosexuality any more than when gay men have sex with women.
He uses he, him pronouns because pronouns don't equal gender. And also because pronouns don't equal gender, he is also a lesbian.
We'll convert your children. Someone's gotta teach them not to hate.
Or top surgery. It makes you cooler, hotter, and smarter than everyone else.
There is no surgical intervention happening to transgender children to change their sex.
How old were you when you got top surgery?
I was 15 when I underwent the mastectomy.
15?
Yeah.
And how old were you when you started testosterone?
I was 13.
This bitch is wrong.
Medical professionals are not giving puberty blockers to children who have not reached puberty.
10-year-old trans model Noella McMayer, who has 2 trans parents, already a New York Fashion Week vet.
I made a video about being a lesbian with a boyfriend. My boyfriend is non-binary, he prefers masculine terms, and he uses he, they pronouns.
Fact, puberty blockers are fully reversible.
I'm 5 foot. I'm about like 5'3", 5'4". I was projected to grow to about 5'6" to about 5'8", but the blockers, I'm pretty sure.
Really? I didn't know that they did that.
Did they block your puberty?
Yeah.
Your children, then we'll turn to you.
I'm under no illusion that the right wing is like the savior of trans people or allies of trans people. What I'm doing is purposely trying to build a bridge between the two. The way trans politics right now is going, this is the Titanic. This is the iceberg.
That's right, friend.
And I feel like you and I are like desperately trying to turn the fucking wheel.
Just me and you. Only
I know.
I'm gonna get in your spaces. Right in your spaces. All up in your spaces. Including your toilets. And you know how I know I'll get in your toilets? Because I'm in your toilets right now.
It's the same smirk as always. Every time. It's just entitled brats. It's 2021 and we care more about the feelings of MAPS, pedophiles, than we do about the spaces of women.
Is how many trans people that are famous, that are in my DMs, saying, yes, you're so right about trans kids. And these are huge figures and they're perpetuating these things, but they are different behind closed doors. So I feel like often I'm in a community full of cowards, let's be real. Hypocrites, cowards.
Yep. This is how wingnutty our community has become.
I'm Cody, pronouns em, ers, or zem, zers, or really any neo-pronouns that aren't z, her. I am a white, transmasculine, femme, non-binary, temporarily mostly able-bodied, neurodivergent, obsessive-compulsive, chronically ill, culturally Jewish, Unitarian Universalist, non-monogamous, demi-low romantic, gray demi-bisexual, survivor of acute and complex trauma, millennial, and cat parent in mental health recovery.
Just this. Someone posted a response. Same energy. They posted the back of a tuna can or something.
I don't belong to that community either, just so you know. That's not my community. My community is people who care. My community is humans. My community is gay people, straight people, whatever, black, white,
You're an
green.
individual.
That's right. There's no reason because I'm a transsexual person that I have to belong to a space that I feel has become, on some level, culty. On some level, culty and indoctrinating. And I don't believe in any way, shape, or form that is community. I believe it's a forceful way to get people to believe something. So because there's power in numbers, you know, the more people you get involved in a cause, that more powerful that cause becomes.
We'll convert your children.
What does me being trans have to do with 12-year-olds being trans, sterilizing themselves, being in sports, in women's leagues? None of that, like when I was sitting and I was like, oh my God, I think I'm trans years ago and coming to terms with who I am and transitioning, none of that was part of it. That's right. So the idea that I'm supposed to be on board with it is ridiculous, especially when it defies logic, it defies science, it defies ethics, it defies so much of like, I feel like a lot of people in the community, first of all, are not trans, period.
That's right. That's
period.
Right. Period.
There's been a huge influx of straight people.
That's right. I want to dismantle a system of oppression that forces everyone to be the perfect, most version of their assigned gender.
A huge influx of straight people.
So I have this thing, call it a little quirk, if you will. I have hair in my armpit. I have it there for a few reasons. 1, lazy. 2, fuck the patriarchy. And 3, your response to them tells me everything I need to know about you.
That's right.
Cis people that come in and they have other issues.
So I am going to come out today and say that I've been transitioning because I know a lot of people don't understand me, but I do identify as Korean.
That they are misdiagnosing as trans And these are typically the people that lead us down the path of things that make us look
well,
bad.
because now you don't need gender dysphoria to be trans. I mean, that's an actual thing they say. And I'm like, really? Then why are you even trans? Well, trans is blah, blah, blah. You know, they come up with all this insane.
Hi, I'm Lynx Wildcat. I am a polyamorous, pansexual, lesbian, non-binary trans woman. I'm also a furry, and my pronouns are she, her, and it.
How can somebody be both a lesbian and a pansexual? Literally two different sexual orientations, but okay.
I mean, but why do you want to be trans so bad? This is not beautiful. I always pushed against that hashtag trans is beautiful. I thought you are actually indoctrinating people with that. It is not beautiful. It's a life full of medicine. It's a life full of surgery. It's
Right to the Affordable Care Act. Insurance carriers are mandated to cover medical expenses for trans folks. But how much money we think each patient would bring in, and this is only including top surgery, this isn't including any bottom surgery, and it's a lot of money. These surgeries make a lot of money. So female to male chest reconstruction can bring in $40,000. A patient just on routine hormone treatment, who I'm only seeing a few times a year, can bring in several $1,000s. That requires a lot of visits and labs. It actually makes money for the hospital. The Philadelphia Center for Transgender Surgery, I just want to give you an idea of how much these bottom surgeries are making. And this is, I think this has to be an underestimate. This is for a vaginoplasty. They're quoting roughly around $20,000 for a vaginoplasty, but that doesn't include your hospital stay. That doesn't include your post-op visits. That doesn't include your anesthesia, your OR. So I would think that this has to be a gross underestimate. I think that's just like the surgeon's piece of it, which anybody who's ever been in the hospital knows that that's like 10% of it. And the female to male bottom surgeries, these are huge money makers. Again, I think this has to be an underestimate that they're quoting around $20,000 for a phalloplasty. There's been different things that I've read that said it could be up to $100,000. Dr. Winokur, who's our surgeon, says that there's entire clinics where the entire clinic is supported just by their phalloplasties, and that is like a fraction of the surgeries that they're doing. These surgeries are labor intensive, they require a lot of follow-ups, they require a lot of OR time, and they make money. They make money for the hospital.
I got even more depressed after the surgery.
Because that's the thing, right? That the surgery is sold incorrectly as something that will solve your issues. And for people who are, you know, diagnosed or undiagnosed with other things, they maybe expect that will help it. But like you said, body dysmorphia is different than even gender dysphoria, you know, and I know that because I feel like I also have body dysmorphia issues with fitness and my weight, which partly goes up and down because of the estrogen. So they're separate. So people think it's this fix all, and it's mostly because the doctors sell it that way.
Please, 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 please consider other options before jumping into phalloplasty. I started transitioning when I was 17, so I was considered still a minor. I had top surgery when I was, I believe, 19. I had a hysterectomy at age 20 or 21, and I had phalloplasty back in 2020, right when the pandemic started, a day after. I got the actual phallus in May of 2020. Everything's broken to pieces. And so that recovery, I was in the ICU for 3 or 4 days, a pitch black room. I was on morphine on drip. Obviously wasn't eating nothing, no drinking. I had little mouth swabs here and there, constantly sleeping, so the pain coach put me to sleep.
A lot of people don't know this. Having a phalloplasty, so female to male bottom surgery is, from what I understand, it's way more invasive, it's way more difficult, and it costs a lot of money, and it's possibly a lot more complications than male to female bottom surgery. And it makes sense when you think about it, because you're creating something that isn't there instead of just taking away something that is. Can you show people where they took the skin graft?
I saw a tattoo like this side. All in all, phalloplasty isn't for, honestly, I don't think it's for anyone with the way it's set up currently. They're not medically advanced.
The life full of always having to be honest about who you are. And when you start saying biology isn't part of that, you are actually not trans then. Trans is biology.
100%. That's why also you have the right-wingers that come and talk about, well, what about biology?
The quote-unquote mother, a biological male, attempting to feed a human child with his chest. Now, this is not going to work because it turns out that biological males do not have milk ducts. So it's going to be rather difficult for the baby to get any sort of nutrition from all of this.
Not only are we not assigning a sex to the baby, DC is forcing me to label myself as the mother, and that's not the case. Paterna is the mother.
This whole birth certificate thing is really really causing me a lot of hurt. Trans women can be mothers.
Well, I'll never be able to breastfeed, and I was informed of this, but I was allowed to make this decision when I didn't really understand just what that meant. I mean, I was 15 years old. I was just a kid.
Impacted whether you'll be able to have children.
Yeah, I started very young, so I don't know whether I'll be able to conceive or if I'll be able to carry safely even. And even from the surgery, I've had some pretty bad side effects. Not only was breastfeeding like a means of feeding my kid, breastfeeding and physical affection in general do play a role in the bond between the mother and child, and I wasn't informed about this at the time.
And talk about, well, what about biology? It's like, yeah, that was a huge part of it, actually.
That's
for
right.
me. And it's not for a lot of these other people that are in the community now.
I just added bug to my list of pronouns.
It's too weird, but honestly, I don't really identify as human.
With non-binary gender fluid identity that ranges between agender and feminine with
People who identify as Alexi gender are fluid between different genders, but never know exactly what gender they are at a certain time.
There is gender fawn, which is similar but never encompasses feelings of femininity.
And castrating myself with estrogen increased my anxiety and like sadness. And but somehow mental health professionals ignored all the signs and all other mental issues I had that I discovered later on, such as neurodivergence, borderline. I have body dysmorphia because I still don't feel sexy or comfortable in my own body. All I can focus on is scars on my body. So it's like, it's really bad. And
because you feel like your body dysphoria is really bad to the point where you don't want to live life.
That I would have never had the desire to transition or had these feelings if there was not something that went wrong in my wiring as a child, possibly even as a fetus, because there's been studies that show that as well.
Yes.
And you're right that now, activists have really pushed this idea of dysphoria not being a part of the equation at all.
And I hate to use that word dangerous because that's been, weaponized danger, all these weird words that they throw out there. But it is. It actually applies to that. When you
Can you have sex?
no, not with my friend Hall, unfortunately. If you take hormones for a prolonged time, your tissue shrinks. That's why like a lot of trans kids are on blockers, such as Jazz Jennings. They just don't have that much material to work with.
And didn't Jazz have to get like multiple revisional surgeries?
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing is people who hail, children transitioning as, better for them, even if they are really trans. It's like, is it because you're not developing a sizable penis to create a vagina that's going to work for you during sex? So these kids are destined to like a sexless life post-surgery.
In fact, I saw a Reddit post where one mom who had a trans kid was just literally posting how like her trans daughter has a micro penis and no sex drive.
I saw that.
They didn't know what to do and they were going to do colon vaginoplasty. I had that doesn't work either.
As we make the world healthier, is the population going to get so big that feeding everybody and maintaining the environment is going to be impossible? Here we can see a chart that looks at the total world population over the last several hundred years. And at first glance, this is a bit scary. We go from less than 1 billion in 1800, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.4 billion where we are today is happening even faster. So Melinda and I wondered whether providing new medicines and keeping children alive, would that create more of a population problem? What we found out is that as health improves, families choose to have less children. And this effect is very, very dramatic. We find that in every country of the world, this is repeated. The population growth goes down as we improve health.
The population growth goes down as we improve health.
Now, as we count down to the start of school in about 2 weeks, we're shining a light on the mental health crisis worsening among our young people.
Another health issue hit teenagers across the country, a mental health crisis.
Mental health episodes. It's something we asked Mayor Adams about.
Many of these folks, when we see them on the street,
they have on hospital beds.
Yes,
so we know they've been in the system.
Right.
And they come right back out.
Right.
We've met those who say the rising cost of living is seriously impacting their mental health.
Well, do you know what's in your drinking water? A shocking Associated Press investigation found various pharmaceuticals in the drinking supplies of at least 41 million Americans.
The study reveals a chemical that can be harmful to your health is found in water in 43 states. The Environmental Working Group says PFAs, which are chemicals used in consumer products like firefighting foam and non-stick cookware, can be found in 610 locations across the country.
So what's in the water? Everything from acetaminophen and ibuprofen to mood stabilizers, antibiotics, angina, heart, as well as cholesterol drugs, and even sex hormones. The trouble here, Meek, is that the federal government does not test specifically for pharmaceuticals in the water. And in fact, there is no way to scrub water that is in a treatment plant for pharmaceuticals.
There's something there that I want people to understand. Just because you are something doesn't make you part of that community.
Minor attracted persons, break that down. Give us clearly what you know this to be.
Okay, so it's basically pedophiles that want the stigma of pedophilia taken off of them so that they can be called minor attracted persons. It's just a way for them to try to make it seem less scary and like innocuous, right? They want to sound like they're not threatening. I'm sorry, but you're a pedophile. If you're a pedophile, I want you stigmatized. I want to know who you are. I want to know where you are. I don't care if you want to call yourself a MAP. That's ridiculous. We don't care what consenting adults do. Consenting adults. Now, when you bring in a child, anyone under the age of 18, I don't care. I know it's a different word, but you're a pedophile to me, okay? Don't go after children. I don't care. Like, stay
There's
away
no way
from
to
it.
dress that up.
As a queer person, we want no part of you. So that whole thought process is mind-blowing to me. I understand the psychology behind pedophilia. I understand it.
A person who is sexually attracted to children.
Dr. Alan Walker argued for the use of the term minor attracted people, or MAPS, to describe people who are attracted to kids instead of the word pedophile. They argue the term MAPS is less stigmatizing since not everyone who is attracted to children will abuse them.
Now, do I think calling pedophiles MAPS is helpful? I mean, the only people it would be helpful for would be the pedophiles themselves, right?
Walker stressed that child sexual abuse is never okay and that their goal is to find ways to prevent it.
Where you want to act like you want to join the queer community because we don't want you, especially during Pride Month, right? There's so many of these flyers or so many of these pamphlets that, like I said, the religious zealots will put out about how pedophiles are in the gay community. There's more pedophiles in the Catholic Church than there are in the gay community. Like, get your facts straight.
International research repeatedly portrays that 0.5 up to even 3% of our male population has some form of pedophilic interest. I'm talking about our male population here today because that's what most research is conducted on. Consider the Netherlands. We have 8.5 million men in total. So this percentage equates with 42,500 up to 255,000 men. That's all inhabitants of a medium-sized city in the Netherlands.
And just because I'm a transsexual man doesn't mean I have to go along with everything that's being said in the trans community, because I disagree with probably more than 80% of the stuff that's coming out of there.
Hey, can you call your mom and ask if we can play mermaids?
It's also the first winter that I have booby body lotion on my new gal pals. You know, taking estrogen has made my skin a lot more sensitive. So the 7 nourishing oils and butters keep it feeling nice and moisturized without feeling greasy. And I especially love that I
trans night at a club. I can't walk through an LGBT area without being stopped constantly from gay people, trans people, everything in between, saying, I agree with you, but I could never say it. And it's like, well, you know what, bitches?
Yep.
Maybe some of y'all need to start fucking saying it.
That's right. Stand up.
Is it just like, if you have the balls to... I'm not gonna say. If you have the balls to cut off your balls, you have the balls to say what you mean.
Brilliant.
Just say what the fuck you mean.
But why is everybody so goddamn scared?
How would you define what a woman is?
Oh my God. I think a woman, that's a trick question.
That's right. Not gatekeeping. The word woman causes this.
I in a short interview, I'm not even sure.
Women at a women's march cannot define the word woman. Literal clown world. And asking them to define the word woman isn't a trick question, right? Are we talking about societal impacts as a woman? Are we talking about biological rights as a woman? This is why words matter.
A woman is anyone that identifies as a woman. If you identify as a woman, if you want to be a woman, then you're a woman.
And how can we protect something that we can't define?
And so I trusted them just to end up in a place where, like, I'm not happy. Like, I don't regret transitioning at all. Like, I'm happy to be Ryan. Pronouns, misgender, and whatever, it doesn't really bother me. But it's just the fact that if I knew back then what I know now, I wouldn't have got it.
Some of them are unprofessional towards trans women, especially the pretty young ones. Just putting it, not naming.
Hi.
We're seeing you, yeah.
I've experienced that, and I think it's really fucking weird.
It is, yeah. It's really, and especially when you're young and vulnerable, you think any attention is a good attention. But looking back, as I've grown, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, it's weird.
I should have been running.
It's weird, yeah.
The situation is even worse for trans people seeking vital health care. The waiting list for London's NHS gender clinic is now estimated to be 26 years, meaning countless trans people are being pushed to pay for private treatment instead. And my friend Mars, who is a trans man and an awesome person, responded to that post and said this, and I think it sums it up perfectly. You guys did this to yourself, meaning the community. You wanted to affirm anybody that claims to be transgender because why not ask questions? That's transphobic. You can just announce that you're trans and bam, you are. What could possibly go wrong after that? Oh, you know, just longer wait times and a crazy increase in detransitioners.
Would you guys be there for me if I was going through something?
No. Nope. Absolutely not.
I was never uncomfortable with my gender. I was uncomfortable with, I'd say, my relationships with other people.
Voice drops from taking testosterone, it doesn't go back.
There's nothing wrong with you, physically. You've got the kind of looks that make other girls mentally ill. So stop it. You don't need any plastic surgery. You're perfect.
He also said, because we can't fully agree on a new true definition of gender dysphoria, gender identity, and transgender, we have to have a bigger conversation around this. Trans rights activists hate the idea of gatekeeping and don't get why it's important. The UK is a great example of why gatekeeping is absolutely necessary. Of course, trans rights activists would rather cry about how difficult life is instead of perhaps realizing that gatekeeping is actually not a part of the issue. It's actually part of the solution to the problem, in my opinion, in his opinion. We went from being gender and sex are not the same thing, and from clothes don't have a gender. Remember that? Remember when like shit was simple like 3 years ago? And now we have verified Twitter accounts saying like this. A short manifesto on why I think sex and gender are the same thing, and any efforts to distinguish them are misguided and harmful. So when we change what words mean, there is tremendous room for people like this to play victim.
My take is that there's a certain point in which even if you accidentally misgender me, it is still intentional. Because the fact that you as a cis person have not done the work to deconstruct how you are viewing trans bodies shows where your true intentions lie, and they are not in the favor of trans folk.
And to look like a man, and you don't think everyone should know how much work it takes for me and you to look this way. It's not natural. We have to work our ass off to look like this. Paint everything. But we do it. So what about this new generation that doesn't want to what they call pass, right? And me and you have passing privilege. We don't have passing privilege. We have a thing that's called determination. And our determination put us here because we want to look like men and women. So that's where I distinguish myself as a different type of person than these people that are today self-IDing, not wanting to pass, no surgery, no hormones, gender, whatever they are. I don't even know. But that's why I really do make an effort to say I'm a transsexual man. I am not transgender.
I try really hard to say transsexual, but you're right. Transsexual is so much more of an appropriate and objectively accurate term because it is It's medical.
It's medical, which is, I'm a medicalized person who has gender dysphoria. I've been diagnosed with it. I have a disorder. I have all of the things that I know made me this person. And because of that, I went through steps. It took a long time. I did not rush through this. And it's really what I advocate for. Slow down. Why is everybody in such a hurry to transition? That's where my red, my red flag goes up. And I'm like, wait a minute, people are rushing into this life-changing space. This is not, I'm going to paint my eyebrows green and tomorrow I'm going to change them to blue.
I'll tell you why they're rushing. There's a lot of money to be made off these kids having these surgeries and going on this medication. So the doctors are rushing them.
Yeah.
The parents are being emotionally blackmailed, telling them that, their kid's going to kill themselves if they don't. When you tell a parent that kids who don't transition kill themselves,
that's right.
You're also telling the kid that. You are putting that in their head that they're either transitioning or their life is over and they'll never be happy. When in reality, I hear from people every single fucking day who are grown-ass men and women, biological, cis people who are comfortable being that and say, I grew up with dysphoria. I grew up thinking that there was something different about me. I have so much parallels in your story, but thank God I was able to outgrow it. Move on from it, but now they're not giving kids that option.
But they're not, that's exactly, I put on my Twitter, I wrote, to all the women out there who were raised as tomboys or masculine women, or are you now living your life as a woman, or would you have been fast-tracked as a trans kid? Oh my God,
it went viral.
It blew up. I got thousands upon thousands of women telling me, my God, Buck, I would have been totally fast-tracked as a trans person because I was masculine, I was this, I was a tomboy, and I thought, wow, this is so powerful. This is what kids need to see.
Yeah.
That's why I did it, because I want young people to see you can be a masculine girl or a feminine boy. That has nothing to do with being trans.
Yet the concept of a tomboy has been erased.
That's right.
It's
Which is
gone.
So sickening. It's sickening. I think butch women are so important, but especially gay butch women. Okay, not all butch women are gay, but gay butch women, we have lost that space. And I remember when I transitioned 30 years ago, okay, imagine I was in the gay women's community. I was very butch, and I'll never forget, when I wanted to transition, they hated me. They came after me. They called me a traitor.
Wow.
I lost all my friends. I had no friends when I transitioned. I did it all by myself.
Intersex can mean a number of different things, right?
It can mean a couple of different chromosome abnormalities. It could be that you were born female, but you have a testicle inside of you.
Right.
Or you are born male with a female uterus and ovaries. Doesn't mean that they work, but you do have them. And there are so many varieties of this now that we've learned more so than this. However, I was born with a uterus and ovaries, and I had what they considered an elongated clit and a vagina. So it was a little bit of both, but it was longer than your typical clit, but it was shorter than a typical penis. Being a child, they thought, you know what? It's probably a boy. And they just sewed up what I had down there and turned it into basically did like a semi-bottom surgery to make me full male.
But you don't have testicles or an actual functioning penis. So
right, yes.
Why did they do that? I guess they figured they had to do something.
They had to do something, and they probably figured it would work, but obviously wouldn't work until you get older. So there was really no way of telling. Right. So in all technicality, it was just there. I get the logic. When I was born, it would be easier to make me a female than a male. But if I found out that I was male later, it would be harder for them to go backwards to make the penis. So that's why they figured just let it go and just make me who I wanted to be.
So you originally potentially thought that you were a gay guy, right? Because you felt very feminine, but you felt feminine because it turns out you're a woman. Would you say that you have more female parts than male parts? I guess
I would say so. I mean, when
do you think because of that it made you feel more like a woman, or just that?
I think
like for intersex people, I don't know the statistics behind it. You know,
it is very rare. I think when I was born, it's like 1 in 68,000, and
people
it is
to be intersex or just
to be intersex.
Okay.
And it was considered originally hermaphrodites.
Right.
So, and now they stopped using that word because now it's not PC or whatever. I don't know. I don't care. You can call me whatever you want. But basically, I have a 46XX chromosome CAH. That's it in a layman's terms. I have the female genitals, but the 46 is a little bit of a deviation. So it's kind of like, mostly, I think from what I've seen, most people are 45. So I'm almost like to the point with like an autistic scale. That's kind of how it kind of goes away. With that, I do have, my brain is wired female and always was. I was small. I didn't have the body structure that men had. And I took a weightlifting course and yet I couldn't put on any muscle. I couldn't put on that heavy muscle. I didn't have the stamina like most men did. The other thing that I noticed is that I didn't grow facial
Basically, you have no Y chromosomes at all.
Exactly. No,
you just,
no Y
you just
chromosomes.
they just figured, okay, it looks like a penis. We think we're gonna raise him this way, blah blah blah. And you're like, a girl, no. You went on testosterone. Did you feel better about yourself or worse about yourself?
Actually, I felt worse.
That makes
you know,
sense.
one
You
of
got
the
bullied.
things
You
that-
probably got bullied less,
I did get bullied less.
but that doesn't matter because
unfortunately,
it wasn't who you truly were.
Exactly. And that was the problem. When I had it, I thought I could deal with this when I got out of school. So it stopped the breast development. It stopped the period, which was good. But being a 46XX chromosome, a lot of the things you do have, you also have like autoimmune diseases that you're more susceptible to, like muscular dystrophy, multiple sclerosis, and things like that. I have that. So that actually sped that up.
So it's really actually frightening how many different health systems, different organs these chemicals can cause harm to. But they don't break down in the body, and they don't break down in the environment, and they actually stick to our blood. So levels tend to increase over time. You may want to look into a more comprehensive filter, a reverse osmosis filter.
Little boys want to be girls because they are. WI-38 is the cell lines from a female aborted fetus used to cultivate viruses used in He Who Shall Not Be Named, Voldemort, we'll call him. When you inject the DNA from a female carrying 2 X chromosomes into a male who already carries 1 X chromosome and a weaker Y chromosome, you now have an overload of the X chromosome.
This study involved 74 fetuses, correct?
Yeah, 76.
And this was just one study. In your entire career, how many fetuses have you worked with?
Well, I don't remember the exact number, but quite a few when we were studying them originally, before we decided to use them to make vaccines.
Have you ever used orphans to study an experimental vaccine?
Yes.
Have you ever used the mentally handicapped to study an experimental vaccine? 13 seronegative, mentally retarded children were given RH273 vaccines.
That's what I did.
These fetuses, all 3 months or older when aborted, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And these were all normally developed fetuses, correct?
Yes.
These included fetuses that were aborted for social and psychiatric reasons, correct?
Correct.
Now, we have an onslaught of boys who think they should be girls. Do we have male DNA in Voldemort's? Yes. The MRC-5 is the code given to the fetal cell line, also used to cultivate, you know what, viral components, and it comes from a male aborted fetus. Do we have girls thinking they are boys? Yes. Is it prominent as boys wanting to be girls? No. Why? Because girls have 2 dominant X chromosomes. When they are injected with a Voldemort containing MRC-5, they are just getting a Y chromosome, but yet another dominant X chromosome on top of the 2 they already have. Oh my gosh, please everyone read this. This happened to me and I've been trying to figure out how for years. I'm a studying doctor and naturopath to combine both to avoid all the evil shit. And I have gender dysphoria that started when I had the MMRV. I also got a bad eye, bad ear, autism, ADHD, and a pant load of health issues. Anyway, there's a huge correlation between autism and trans and non-binary, and I keep trying to explain to everyone on both sides of this. They are doing this to us. We are not choosing this, and to explain it to anyone who doesn't get it, before I look in a mirror, my self-image is a guy. My voice is a guy's, and it feels like I have a phantom limb regarding an appendage. This is really real, and I've tried for years to make it stop and for the image, etc., to align with myself. Please spread this to the community of awake people. We are not doing this to ourselves. It's being done to us. Please do not demonize. Pray instead.
Post from another detransitioner who said that you could literally stab his genitals with a knife and there is no sensation.
Yeah.
You know, for years as a trans person, I've been asked like my reasons for not wanting the surgery, etc. The reality is for some people, and you're saying for yourself, you can't even have sex. You have had a sex change, and now you cannot have sex.
If the U.S. has the most advanced medical doctors and facilities in the world, then why does it have the lowest life expectancy and the highest infant mortality rate? Why is life expectancy shorter in the U.S.? Take a look. In the 70s, the U.S. didn't stand out at all. It does so now because life expectancy increased much more slowly than in other countries. At the same time, health spending in the U.S. increased much more rapidly, particularly since the mid-1980s. Infant mortality rate. So if healthcare is getting better, why is it that the U.S. is number one in infant mortality who die before reaching 1 year of age? Riddle me this.
Don't be suspicious. No. Don't be suspicious. 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 Don't be suspicious.
Thank you for watching. Comment below. Don't forget, you can, if you want, subscribe, like, or subscribe, or hit the bell. Hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. I don't know if I just started this channel, so I don't know if it's shadow banned yet, but I'm trying not to get to that level. You know, it's a free country, so you can do whatever you want. It's a free country. I mean, it's only free if you make it free. So we're trying to get free.